All right, happy Wednesday. I'm Lawrence Lerner with Dragonchain. I'm president of Dragonchain Consulting. We're joined today by Paul DiMarzio of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We're super excited about that. Dragonchain has joined the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance to help build out coordination and collaboration among blockchain projects all over the world. Paul, welcome again. Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Paul. Hi, welcome to my home office here. Coming to you from, well, I guess it's kind of sunny Connecticut today. So I've been a tech head almost my whole life, certainly my whole career. I've been at EEA just since the summer, so I think I started literally on August 1st. Prior to that, I worked at Digital Asset for a couple of years on their smart contract language. Prior to that, I was at IBM for 33 years. Long time, 3 decades. And my last assignment there, I had been working on their Fabric implementation. So, very, very long career. Super psyched to be at EEA. I'm still learning the ropes here after just 3 months, but it's been a fun place to work for sure.
Great. Well, very different cultures, approach to the world. Would love to get your perspective on that. And where is EEA going, and what are your thoughts there about, the mission of EEA?
Yeah, well, you certainly can't get much different from, IBM, even the DA, which had about 130 people at the time I joined. EEA has, I think me and Ron, not too many folks in it. I really like the freedom. I like the camaraderie you get in the small teams. There's really no corporate oversight to deal with. And what I like about the EEA is this is the first time in my career I've not worked on a product. Always worked on a product, so always had to say mine is the best, this is the best, everybody else is a competitor. Now I can look at all of our members and what they're building and have a very open view, right? So we've got maybe 5 or 6 different client implementations in the EEA, and I love them all, right? So they all have their strengths and weaknesses. It's really nice and refreshing to be able to not have to worry about the competitiveness and just focus on taking this ecosystem and pushing it forward. I really enjoy that a lot.
Cool. So you've got this ecosystem role, as you said. So what does it mean to be to you to be a community manager, especially for something like Ethereum, which arguably the whole blockchain community owes a large debt to for kicking things off?
Yeah, there's one thing I found out, right off in working with Ethereum here is there are a lot of stakeholders involved, and they're all very, very different, right? So you've got, folks that are building out the enterprise software. You've got the folks that are consuming it, and many of those are super large companies, especially the banks and the financials. And then you've got the vast ecosystem of just core Ethereum developers, and they all look at the world a little differently. They all have different wants and needs, and my role is to kind of really try to understand where everybody's coming from, and bring everybody together. So all towards the common goal of raising this ecosystem for everybody. Right, so everybody's got a different voice, a different stake, and I'm trying to align all that in this role.
Cool. So in that ecosystem, there's a lot of different working groups that the EEA has brought together. Can you give us an idea of how many? Give us some examples, and maybe even some of the use cases that those working groups have in play at the moment.
Okay. We probably should first really examine what we do in the first place, right? Because the working groups are an offset of that mission statement. And, the EEA it's a member-led industry organization. And what that means is that, the folks that are the stakeholders, in building stuff out and consuming stuff in Ethereum, found that there was a problem. So everybody was building their own, everybody was building a vertical. And we were starting to see in Ethereum the same sort of fragmentation and siloing that you would get in the corporate world, with everybody owning their own databases, everybody owning their own infrastructure. Those groups got together and formed this alliance, which is really just a way for everybody to work together towards standardization and interoperability. It's a very, I would call it a very consumer-oriented focus, right? What we do is we try to understand what do people really want to do, on Ethereum, and I'm not talking about, the core developers who already know, they love it, they're working on it every day. I'm talking about, the folks down the street. If you were to even mention Ethereum to them, they'd give you a blank stare. I do this all the time with my friends and my family. I say, I'm working for this Ethereum organization, and, they do that. And they say, you ever heard of blockchain? No. You ever heard of Bitcoin? Oh, yeah, we've heard of Bitcoin. Not because they use it, just because it's in the news, right? So we're trying to make Ethereum a household word by bringing that standardization and trust around to it. So, that's kind of what we're at. Now, in order to accomplish that mission, we form into these different teams, right? So we've got working groups, task forces, and special interest groups. And, the working groups are really where the heart of the real technical work gets done. And the EEA was focusing mainly on a client spec when I joined, and that's still kind of the case. So, if you're going to run an Ethereum node in the enterprise configuration, you want to run a client that has certain capabilities to it, and that working group focuses on that. What I've seen happen then is, as you want to start to focus in on certain problems within that space, we spin off these task forces, right? So we've got task forces running now on trusted off-chain computing, interoperability. So cross-chain interoperability is one. We've got another task force focusing on consensus algorithms and so on and so forth. And then we have the special interest groups, which are less formal, and they're generally focused on either a vertical or a topic. Right, so we've got, say, a financial services special interest group. We've got a retail. We've got an insurance, and so on and so forth, and then topics like security. All told, I think we've got about 20 groups that are running right now. It's quite a even though the EEA, the people who work for the EEA are small, we've got over 200 members, and so there's a lot of folks involved, and we just keep herding those cats and moving them down the road and trying to make things work as best we can.
You've got a lot of reach and influence, and Dragonchain is super interested in all of those things around interoperability. I mean, that's one of the foundations of Dragonchain, and we hold 2 patents as an organization. One of them being on interoperability, and we obviously integrate with Ethereum and with other coins. And in terms of use cases, all of the things that you mentioned are important. I sit on the supply chain working group or a special interest group for EEA, and this morning we had a great presentation by Marley Gray from Microsoft on tokenization. So thank you very much for sponsoring and hosting that. So at the end of the day, as we talk about enterprise, and our prediction, my prediction has been 2020 was the year of enterprise, and 2020 is really where it's going to take off. What do you think, and what are others' thoughts about the ideal use case for enterprise, or what's going to be that fire starter?
That's a tough question to answer. I don't know that there's going to be one, killer app, like email or anything like that. Yeah. I think you're going to see, just a lot of stuff taken off. Within the special interest groups of which you participate, we start to publish use case documents, right? So this year, the real estate and the telecom SIGs both published use case documents, which show the use of enterprise Ethereum in those spaces. And if I recall correctly, the real estate one was very much around tokenization, and it talks about using tokens to create fractional ownership of real estate, to bring liquidity to illiquid markets, things of that nature. The telecom one for me was a little harder to digest. It's the telecom's problems are very, if you're not in telecom, they're very obtuse. You're talking about all the inter-carrier protocols and things that have to get done. Talking about even the Internet of Things stuff, like if somebody's going to put a smart bolt deadlock on their front door, and they're going to use their telecom provider to get it, to get it started. How do you make sure that you're not putting any malware down on there so the thing's going to pop open at any point in time? So these groups are building out these use case documents. So I think we're going to find, certain use cases for every vertical are going to come out and kind of start to lead the way. It's really hard to say which one's going to kill. I think they're all going to kill. I think it's a great environment for just about any vertical.
Yep. So as we head into the end of the year and look forward to 2020 and 2021, what are some of your predictions? What do you think the major trends that we're going to see over the next 18 months?
Well, the thing that I'm personally really stoked about is this alliance that we've made with the Ethereum Foundation. It was announced earlier in the year. We've been working towards it all year. It's been one of the main things I've been working on since I've been here. And as you can see, I was at DevCon 5. We had some really super packed meetings about it there, and in fact had our first call just yesterday. And what this alliance is going to do is it's going to start to move a lot of the work we do on enterprise out of private chains, private permission networks into the mainnet. Right now, you could still run a private permission chain on the mainnet. You could still use the technology there and let everybody. If you don't want to participate, don't bother. If you want to use the mainnet as it's used today, power to you. We're not going to try to interrupt that. But what we're going to try to do is see if we could bring those elements that we've been doing so far in private, to work on the public Ethereum network. And there's so much, buzz around this thing. And when I first started getting involved, I thought we were going to get, shot out of the room and, and booed off stage and all that. But, the Ethereum communities, I think they're starting to recognize that, enterprises really do want to start working on the public chain, and they need things that aren't there. Right. So we need to bring those things in as options for those folks who want to use them. And that's what this partnership's going to do. So, we just started this thing yesterday. I think we had about 150 people on the call. It's probably one of our largest calls ever.
Wow.
Yeah. And, a lot of them were from outside, so I think this is just going to explode. And, my colleague, John Wolpert, likes to call the mainnet the magic bus. That's his term for it. And I think we're going to see this magic bus take off and fly.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, thanks so much for spending time with us today. We look forward to following up in a couple of months and see how things have continued to progress. And we can talk maybe in more detail about our partnership. Hey, have a great rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.